Russians kept losing their army during the war with Ukraine, especially tanks and the strength of soldiers. According to a report, Russia has lost more than 11,000 tanks during the war with Ukraine. An estimated 950,000 casualties so far. At least 250,000 soldiers have been confirmed dead. That is more than the population of Iceland. And between September 26th to 27th, Russia lost more than 970 soldiers in just one day. Today, we have gathered footage of the destruction of Russian tanks and personnel. And explained how Ukraine, a small country, is winning against one of the world's largest armies. Despite launching assault after assault, Russian forces rarely find success. Instead, most end in disaster. Here is one clear example of their failed attack. Russian commanders prepared another attempt to break through the Ukrainian defense line in the Donetsk region. Their first wave of the assault consisted of 3 APCS and 2 tanks, moving in a tight formation with the goal of forcing a breakthrough. Ukrainian reconnaissance teams had already spotted the movement and were monitoring closely. A Javelin missile was fired at the convoy, but it narrowly missed its target. The leading tank and APC managed to avoid hidden mines and pressed forward, but trouble soon came for the second pair in the column. One of the tanks struck a massive mine, erupting into a fiery explosion that shook the ground. Realizing the growing danger, the crew of the damaged tank and its accompanying APC quickly abandoned their vehicles, fleeing on foot in desperation. Some soldiers scattered into nearby abandoned houses, while others tried to take cover in the tree line. Meanwhile, the leading tank, which had pushed slightly ahead, decided to retreat after witnessing the destruction behind it. As it rolled back toward safety, this tank drove directly over another mine. This one detonating right in front of the already destroyed wreck. The blast tore through the machine, leaving it crippled. Now, only one APC remained in the fight. Alone and surrounded by burning wrecks, its crew hesitated, unsure of what awaited them next. Somehow, the last APC managed to escape from the spot, but it didn't get far. On its way out, while trying to run for cover, it struck a hidden mine. The explosion was massive, most likely because the APC was carrying ammunition inside. Here is another angle of the blast, showing just how powerful it was. But what about the soldiers it carried? Looking closely at the footage, some were killed instantly in the explosion, while others were left burning on the ground, engulfed in fire. The scene showed the full scale of the destruction. In this failed assault, Russia lost 2 APCS and 2 tanks, likely T-80S. At least 7 soldiers were killed on the spot, while more than 10 others escaped, abandoning their vehicles in panic. The Russian soldiers who had escaped from the earlier attack tried to hide in a nearby tree line, using the natural cover to stay out of sight. But little did they know, some Ukrainian soldiers from SOF sabotage units were already positioned in the same area. Waiting patiently. As the Russians settled in, the Ukrainians launched a sudden surprise attack. The fight was brief, as many of the Russian soldiers had abandoned their weapons when they fled their vehicles. In just moments, 8 of them were taken down.
Блять, мясо скрізь. Рация нема?
After the clash, Ukrainian soldiers quickly pulled back into their positions to avoid detection and protect themselves. And with that, the first layer of the Russian assault had ended in complete failure.
Блять, мясо скрізь.
Now we move to the second wave of the assault, where Russia sent in 7 armored vehicles, mostly for carrying personnel and ammunition. This time, Ukraine's 82nd Air Brigade faced the attack, and alongside them, US-supplied M1 Striker APCs and British Challenger 2 tanks were also in action. During the fight, Russian forces tried to use FPV drones against the Ukrainian defense line, but Ukrainian soldiers spotted them and managed to shoot several down before they could strike. The battle was intense, lasting for more than 2 hours, with heavy fire exchanged on both sides. In the end, the assault collapsed. Several Russian vehicles were destroyed. Dozens of soldiers were neutralized.
Подивіться тут понад краєм. А ну, їбани туди ще пару пострілів, їбани. Бранер, блядь!
And more than 20 were captured alive by Ukrainian troops. Another costly failure for Russia, and another solid defense by Ukraine. Up to this point, Russia has lost 8 armed vehicles, including tanks and more than 30 soldiers, in which many of them were captured by Ukraine. But what happened next will come even worse for Russia. Because when the second wave moved in, they didn't realize they were driving straight into a prepared kill zone. Ukrainian engineers had already planted anti-tank mines across the approach routes. These aren't random mines, they're part of a deliberate defense plan. Anti-tank mines are pressure-triggered or magnetically activated explosives buried just deep enough to remain unseen. The moment a tank's track or wheel rolls over them, the blast shatters suspension systems or tears through the bottom hull. Even if the crew survives, the vehicle is immobilized, blocking the road and trapping everything behind it. That's exactly what happened here. The first tank struck a mine and was instantly disabled. And once that column slowed, Ukrainian artillery zeroed in. But artillery wasn't the only threat. Drones were circling overhead. FPV drones, controlled by operators miles away, dove straight into vehicles. A cheap drone carrying a small warhead is enough to disable optics, damage engines, or even set off ammunition stored inside. What makes this even more devastating is the cycle Ukraine has perfected. Imagine being inside a T-90, rolling forward to break the Ukrainian defense. Suddenly, you hear the buzz overhead. A small FPV drone is tracking your every move. It's cheap, maybe only a few $100s, but it carries an explosive powerful enough to disable your optics or tear through the engine deck. Once the drone locks on, there's almost no escape. Drones spot the targets. Artillery weakens them. And anti-tank teams with javelins wait for the survivors. It's not one layer of defense. It's multiple layers stacked together. Russian forces, relying on Soviet-style mass push tactics, end up funneled into the exact traps Ukraine wants. The result? Not just destroyed armor, but chaos. Crews abandoning vehicles, soldiers surrendering once cut off, and rescue attempts that only add to the losses. One APC from the earlier attack managed to escape. It was protected with a heavy metal grille to shield it from drones, which made it tougher to destroy. But the Ukrainian drone operators from the 81st Air Mobile Brigade quickly spotted it fleeing near the Siversk region and launched multiple FPV drones to take it down. The APC was chased and struck several times. But thanks to the grille armor, it kept moving and eventually stopped near a tree line. More drones followed, landing repeated hits. Yet, the vehicle still refused to go down. It then tried to move again into an open field, already badly damaged. That's when a final wave of strikes broke through, and a massive explosion tore it apart. Flames and thick black smoke rose high from the burning APC. Some of the crew were killed instantly, but 3 soldiers managed to crawl out onto the road. Ukrainian drone operators didn't let them escape. FPVs dropped bombs directly on them, one after another. Within moments, all 3 were neutralized, adding 1 more APC and 4 more soldiers to Russia's growing losses. Later on, Ukraine released footage from inside the destroyed APC, showing the aftermath of the strike and just how powerful the attack had been. Here is another example of a failed Russian assault. This attack was doomed from the start, as the 2 leading tanks had already hit mines and were stopped in their tracks. As the rest of the convoy came under heavy artillery and ATGM fire, one APC tried to retreat. Soldiers jumped onto it as it moved backward, but it soon hit a mine. Moments later, a drone struck it from behind and disabled it. Another APC pushed through the open field but was hit by an ATGM. Though badly damaged, it kept moving until another direct strike left it crippled. From there, Ukrainian drone operators began dropping bombs one after another on the disabled tanks and APCS. Within moments, 1 MBT, 1 APC, and the rest of the vehicles were destroyed. leaving over 20 Russian soldiers dead in yet another failed assault. Up to this point, Russia has realized that sending more vehicles, more troops, and more soldiers is not working here. If they truly want to break through the Ukrainian defense line, they must come up with a strategic idea, because brute force has failed again and again. The problem lies in how these assaults are planned. Russian commanders are still relying on Soviet-era doctrine, mass formations of tanks and APCS pushing forward in columns. But the battlefield has changed. Ukrainian defenses are no longer just trenches and minefields, they are integrated systems. Drones spot every movement. Artillery fires within minutes. And javelins or Bradleys finish whatever survives. Every wave that Russia sends is simply feeding into this layered trap. And there's another reality at play. Defense is naturally easier than attack. When Russia pushes forward, Ukraine doesn't need to expose itself. It just needs to hold ground. Fortified positions, minefields, and overwatch from drones give defenders a clear edge. This is why Ukraine is able to absorb these attacks and inflict heavy losses. Defense allows them to conserve strength, while Russia bleeds away men and machines. But the same rule works both ways. If Ukraine tries to advance and reclaim Russian-held areas, the situation becomes far harder. They too would face entrenched defenses, mine belts, and artillery fire. Exactly the kind of resistance Russia is struggling with now. That's why Ukraine is careful, using its advantage in defense to wear Russia down before attempting to push forward. This is why Russian losses keep piling up. A modern defense doesn't crumble under pressure. It adapts, counters, and punishes. Mines don't just destroy vehicles. They channel columns into narrow lanes where drones and artillery are waiting. Armored pushes that once worked in theory are now obsolete in practice. Meanwhile, Ukraine has mastered combining technology with strategy. They don't waste resources on reckless pushes. Instead, they force Russia to attack into kill zones, where even the most advanced T-90 tanks, or BMPs, stand little chance.
Злит!
Before we move on to the next assault, just take a moment to hit like and subscribe. It really helps us keep going. Now, back to the battlefield. In another footage released by the Ukrainian ATGM team, a hidden Russian position was spotted near the Avdiivka region. An anti-tank guided missile was launched. And in the footage, we can clearly see it flying in and hitting the target with precision. Russian soldiers hiding in that spot were forced to come out, and their movements were easily traced using night vision. To finish them off, another anti-tank guided missile was fired, striking the position directly. The Russian hideout was destroyed, leaving no chance for the soldiers inside to hold their ground. Here is another moment where a Ukrainian 115 OMBR tank faced off against two Russian APCs. The APCs were moving quickly when the first one was struck. Direct fire from the Ukrainian tank hit it head-on, and the vehicle exploded into flames. Let's look from another angle. The distance was close, and the Ukrainian tank had been hiding right in front of their path. The APCs were moving fast when the first one came under fire. The Ukrainian tank fired once, hitting it from the front, and then fired a second round, again striking the APC head-on. With those two direct hits, the first APC was completely destroyed and burst into flames. The second APC tried to escape the area, but it too ran over a mine. The explosion badly damaged it, yet it still attempted to move forward. Moments later, an anti-tank guided missile struck it with a powerful blast. But the armored personnel carrier somehow kept crawling. Finally, the Ukrainian tank fired another round, this time a direct hit that destroyed the vehicle on the spot. Among the 131 brigades of the Ukrainian army, the SBU unit stands out as one of the strongest and most effective. In newly released footage, this unit showcases its devastating impact on the battlefield. The clips reveal a long list of destroyed Russian equipment and personnel, around 300 soldiers, 19 tanks, 33 armored personnel carriers, 85 trucks, and 33 ammunition depots taken out by their operations. The video shows strike after strike, with FPV drones, missiles, and artillery all working together to crush Russian positions. Each clip highlights the precision of their attacks, from tanks bursting into flame to ammunition depots erupting with massive secondary explosions. The footage is not only proof of their success, but also a demonstration of how Ukrainian forces are adapting with modern technology, especially the widespread use of FPV drones. But that's not all. At the beginning of this year, the SPU unit released another set of footage, showing even more destruction. In that round, they managed to destroy 18 additional tanks, 24 APCS, 36 artillery systems, 4 air defense systems, 4 more ammunition warehouses, and even 2 more APCS in rapid succession. These weren't isolated strikes. This was a coordinated effort, carried out with precision and consistency across multiple battlefields. What makes these clips stand out is not just the number of destroyed targets, but the way they were neutralized. FPV drones dive straight into tanks and APCS, detonating with pinpoint accuracy. Artillery systems are wiped out before they can fire, and ammunition depots erupt into towering explosions, sending shockwaves across the front line. The combination of advanced tactics, drone warfare, and highly trained operators shows why the SBU unit has earned its reputation as one of the most powerful forces in Ukraine's arsenal. After those images of burning armor and abandoned vehicles, the bigger picture becomes obvious. This fight is changing. It's not just about who has more tanks. It's about who uses what they have smarter. And right now, Ukraine has learned to do that better. First, a simple truth that matters more than people think. Defense is easier than attack. Holding a prepared position lets defenders use the ground, mines, and fields of fire to their advantage. Attackers must expose themselves to move. That exposure is what Ukraine is exploiting. When Russian columns try to push forward, they enter zones that are prepared to stop them. Not by luck, but by planning. Look at the tanks. Russian forces bring T-72, T-82, and the more modern T-90. These are heavy, powerful machines with 125mm guns and reactive armor. On paper, they look strong, but tanks are only as good as the support around them. Without good reconnaissance, without fuel trucks and repair support, and without control of the skies, they become big, slow targets. On the other side, Ukraine now fields Leopard 2s, Bradley fighting vehicles, and Western systems like the Abrams in some units. Leopards and Abrams use 120mm guns and modern sights. That means they can see and hit a target at long range. Bradleys carry infantry and also have weapons that can punch through lighter armor. HIMARS rockets and guided artillery add another layer. They hit supply points and ammo dumps far behind the front, so attackers run out of what they need. Drones change everything. Small FPV drones cost a few $100s, but can put holes in an engine deck. Or destroy optics. Recon drones find convoys and point artillery to them. A drone can tag a vehicle. Artillery can zero in. And a javelin or NLAW can finish the job. That chain, spot, fix, strike, is why a single tank can be set aside and left burning. While the next vehicles pile up behind it. Mines are part of the same system. An anti-tank mine does not need a soldier standing next to it. It waits. When a lead vehicle hits one, the column slows or stops. Stopped columns are easy to target. That's why engineers place mines not randomly, but to funnel attackers into kill zones. When movement is forced into predictable lanes, drones and artillery make short work of the rest. Now picture this as a moment on the ground. Imagine being inside a T-90 heading down a road. You hear the engines, smell diesel, and then you see smoke from a knocked-out vehicle up ahead. Above, a small drone circles. The crew knows that any stop could mean being hit by artillery in minutes. The pressure builds. Decisions are rushed. That fear makes crews make mistakes. They abandon vehicles, scatter, and become easy prisoners or targets. Morale collapses faster than any tank can be rebuilt. There's also logistics. A tank needs fuel, ammo, and spare parts. Western supplies and training mean Ukrainian forces keep vehicles running longer. HIMARS and drones don't only destroy tanks. They destroy the supply trains. A convoy hit behind the lines sometimes means the next day the attacker has no fuel to move at all. Finally, the numbers show the effect. Russia still has large stockpiles of armor, but losses are mounting because attackers are forced into repeated, costly pushes. Ukraine is not winning by throwing more metal at the problem. It's winning by combining cheap tools like drones with expensive tools like Leopards and HIMARS. And by using mines and artillery in a coordinated way. What you just saw was intense. but it's nothing compared to what comes next. A Ukrainian F-16 swoops in from above, locks onto 45 Russian tanks, and unleashes a missile strike that changes everything. The footage is shocking, and you need to see it right now. We've already seen tank-to-tank battles, and even drones taking out Russian armor. But when the strike comes from the sky, it becomes a nightmare for the Russians. That's why Ukraine relies on the F-16 again and again. On the end screen, you'll see the footage where a single F-16 destroys a massive Russian convoy of 45 tanks. Click and watch it now.